Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayam Vishwapad Paramahamsa Parivajakacarya Astutha Satashi Srimad ISKCON founder Acharya, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Namastasmai Bhagavate Vasudevaya Vedhase Papurgyanamayam Somya Yanmukham Buruhasavam Namastasmai Bhagavate Vasudevaya Vedhase Papurgyanamayam Somya Yanmukham Buddhasavam Nama my obeisances Tasmai unto him Bhagavate unto the personality of Godhead Vasudevaya unto Vasudeva or his incarnations Vedhase the compiler of the Vedic literatures Papu drunk Jnanam knowledge Ayam this Vedic knowledge Somya the devotees especially the consorts of Lord Krishna Yat from whose Mukha Amburuha from the lotus-like mouth Asavam nectar from his mouth. I offer my respectful obeisances unto Srila Vyasadeva. I can come a bit closer to the mic, but if you want to turn it down, I can speak closer to the mic. I'll say the feeding down. I offer my respectful obeisances unto Srila Vyasadeva, the incarnation of Vasudeva, who compiled the Vedic scriptures. The pure devotees drink up the nectarian, transcendental knowledge dropping from the lotus-like mouth of the Lord. Please repeat. I offer my respectful obeisances unto Srila Vyasadeva, the incarnation of Vasudeva, who compiled the Vedic scriptures. The pure devotees drink up the nectarian transcendental knowledge dropping from the lotus-like mouth of the Lord. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki. In pursuance of the specific utterance, Vedhase, or the compiler of the system of transcendental knowledge, Srila Sridhar Swami has commented that the respectful obeisances are offered to Srila Vyasadeva, who is the incarnation of Vasudeva. Srila Jiva Goswami has agreed to this, but Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has made a further advance, namely that the nectar from the mouth of Lord Krishna is transferred to his different consorts, and thus they learn the finer arts of music, dance, dressing, decorations, and all such things which are relished by the Lord. Such music, dance, and decorations enjoyed by the Lord are certainly not anything mundane, because the Lord is addressed in the very beginning as para, or transcendental. This transcendental knowledge is unknown to the forgotten conditioned souls. Srila Vyasadeva, who is the incarnation of the Lord, thus compiled the Vedic literatures to revive the lost memory of the conditioned souls about their eternal relation with the Lord. One should therefore try to understand the Vedic scriptures, or the nectar transferred by the Lord to his consorts in the conjugal humor, from the lotus-like mouth of Vyasadeva or Shukadeva. By gradual development of transcendental knowledge, one can rise to the stage of the transcendental arts of music and dance displayed by the Lord in his Rasa Leela. But without having the Vedic knowledge, one can hardly understand the transcendental nature of the Lord's rasa, dance, and music. The pure devotees of the Lord, however, can equally relish the nectar in the form of the profound philosophical discourses and in the form of kissing by the Lord in the rasa dance, as there is no mundane distinction between the two. Amagyana timirandasya gananjana shalakaya chakshu militam yena tasmai Shri Gurave namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pestaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine. So this chapter is titled The Process of Creation, but when Shukadeva Goswami is asked to describe the process of creation by Parikshit Maharaj, he begins by spending almost this whole chapter on describing the Supreme Lord, glorifying the Supreme Lord, offering prayers to the Supreme Lord. So from this we can understand that one can only understand the creation by understanding the Creator. The Lord is described as the Purusha. Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Lord Brahma himself glorifies the Lord as the Purusha, or the Supreme Male. And all of his creation, including the living entities, are Prakriti, or in the feminine position. Srila Prabhupada says in the last verse, in the purport to the last verse, which is tomorrow, that no one can create anything without understanding the Lord and without understanding Vedic knowledge. So actually, from this understanding of Purusha, Prakriti, the Lord as the Supreme Purusha, everything else is his Prakriti, is his energy, we can understand that the process of creation is actually a process of the Purusha, or the masculine energy. Because the Purusha is the masculine energy, the Prakriti is the energy. So the Purusha is, Srila Prabhupada explains, like the powerhouse is the Purusha, the energy, the electricity is the Prakriti, the energy. So the control of energy and the energy, the source of the energy and the energy itself. So if we talk about creation, creating something, then that's naturally a function of the Purusha, of the masculine energy, because to create energy means that position is being set up. Purusha creates Prakriti, or manifests Prakriti. In the beginning of creation, the Lord is in his Atmaram feature, and then he manifests his creation, he manifests his energies. So his creation, he creates. So in this world, Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita that although all of the individual living souls are actually Prakriti, they're actually in the feminine position. Apariyamitastvanyam prakritim vidime param. He says later in the 13th chapter that actually in this world everybody is taking the position of Purusha. Purusha Prakriti stohi bhunkte Prakriti jangudan. So although this is the illusory nature and the mercy of the Lord that he creates this material world in such a way that although the living entities are of the nature of Prakriti, they can experience and take on that position of Purusha, or controller. So on the spiritual platform, the jivas are all feminine, they're all Prakriti. Lord Chaitanya also explained this. Jiva is Rupa, Krishna and Nityadas. Eternally the servant in the position of the taking shelter of serving. And on the gross material platform, the souls take the form of either a male form or a female biological form. But one thing that we don't discuss very much, both of these things are discussed. Quite often we hear, we're all feminine, Krishna is the supreme male. And quite often we hear the differences between, the male, biological male, the biological female, the different differences and so forth there. One thing we don't hear very much about is this point that Krishna brings up in 13th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, that when it comes to conditioned consciousness, on the platform of conditioned consciousness, we're all Purusha. The conditioned souls are all taking that position of Purusha. Krishna himself says, Purusha Prakriti stohi bhunkte Prakriti jangunan. However, and this is actually what the Bhakti Shastras are all dealing with, this conditioned nature. They're all dealing with this nature of the Purusha, of the masculine nature. Whatever gross form one is in, Krishna says that every conditioned soul is trying to take the position of the enjoyer, Purusha. And this is actually what the Shastras are dealing with. And there's many other Shastras in the Vedas that deal with the duties of the biological male, biological female. There's other things, but it's not really brought out that much. And the reason is that in the Bhakti Shastra, in the Bhagavatam, the reason is that it's getting at the conditioned nature. It's bringing out the eternal nature, that we're all Prakriti, we're all eternal feminine in terms of the soul. But really it's dealing with that conditioned nature, that we all have that nature to enjoy. We're all trying to be the enjoyer. And this is the thrust of the Bhakti Shastras. So when we talk about creation and talk about this point of why Prabhupada says that one cannot create anything of substance without understanding the Vedas, this comes back to that point that Krishna is the only Purusha. He is the only supreme independent. The masculine principle is independence, creativity. He is the only one who's independent. Everybody else is dependent. So Krishna is the only Purusha. So if someone is acting in this world, as Krishna says, everyone is acting in this world. If someone is acting as Purusha without connection to the Supreme Purusha, then that creation cannot stand. That creation cannot stand, because in actual fact, Krishna is the only one who can create. Only Krishna can create. Only the Purusha can create. And everyone else either creates in a temporary, illusory way by pretending they're Purusha, or they act as a servant of the Supreme Lord. And we see a very good example. Lord Brahma, and later on Lord Brahma directly narrates this in the next chapter, where Narada Muni actually asks Lord Brahma, his father, about this process of creation. And Lord Brahma says this point that actually the Purusha, the supreme person, Krishna, Narayan, he's the only one who actually creates, and all others are secondary creators. So therefore, if somebody tries to create without understanding who's the real creator, then that creation cannot stand. because it is not real. It may be temporary for some time, but it's not real. But when one is a secondary creator, and we see that Lord Brahma is a good example, and also we can say our own Srila Prabhupada is another excellent example of that. That he has created this society, ISKCON, which has stood for more than 50 years so far and will continue to stand for hundreds of years. As long as people follow his teachings carefully and keep the purity of the society, it will continue to stand, because Prabhupada always said, I'm not the creator, I'm the secondary creator. He's like Lord Brahma. Krishna is the Supreme Purusha, he's the creator. And Prabhupada's acting as his servant. So although it appears, and we say Srila Prabhupada's the founder Acharya of ISKCON, he is the founder Acharya, all of these things he created, but the reason it stands is because he's acting as a servant of the Supreme Purusha. So therefore, we'll read tomorrow when Prabhupada says this point, that you cannot create anything of substance without understanding the Vedas, without understanding Krishna. This is one aspect of that point. Prabhupada says here in the purport, the pure devotees. Yes, in the purport, the pure devotees drink up the nectarian. I'll just pause for a second because this is kind of going on to another point here. The pure devotees drink up the nectarian transcendental knowledge dropping from the lotus-like mouth of the Lord. So this verse is really describing this process of bhakti as the descending process. The nectar is got from the Lord and his representative, in this case Srila Vyasadeva. The knowledge is coming from the Lord, and we hear it through the mouth of Srila Vyasadeva. So Srila Prabhupada always said that we, accepting the authority of the Lord, we save so much time. And actually this process is essential because we are conditioned. And just like if someone is bound up hand and foot, they can't release themselves. They need someone else to release them. We are bound up in this modes of nature where we have so many things that are binding us to this material world, so many desires, unlimited lifetimes we've been here in this material world. So the conditioned soul has 4 defects. We have imperfect senses. Because of the imperfect senses we make mistakes. Because of that we fall into illusion, and then because of that we cheat others. There's unlimited books you can read, and unlimited gurus out there who will say this is the way to be happy, this is the way to be happy, and something that might have worked for them. But ultimately anything that is to do with the body and the mind is temporary situation. Saving the dress of the drowning man. So in that way we try to, conditioned soul also tries to cheat others by saying, yes, I have the answer to all of this. So with imperfect senses, mistakes, propensity to fall into illusion, and cheating others, it's not possible to get pure knowledge. You cannot rely on it. You might be right 90% of the time, but that 10% will get you in a lot of trouble. But following the direction of the Lord and his representatives is the only way to progress beyond the conditioned life. And actual real progress is when we try to please the Lord and his representatives. That's the only way to progress beyond the conditioned life. And actually, we are very much caught up in impersonality. We think that this world is an impersonal law that's going on, but actually personality pervades everything. I had a small experience after this, we did this catering program called the Blues Fest. Usually we've done it for the last 3 years. Of course last year they cancelled due to COVID a month before, and that was okay. But this year it was all going ahead, and we'd spent weeks and months actually preparing everything. We'd spent 3 days down building the whole stall and everything, and huge endeavour. The cold room was full of boga, everything ready to go. And the day before they cancelled it because of one case of COVID in the Byron Bay. So of course one thing I learned from that was to take shelter of this verse. What is it? You have a right to perform your prescribed duty, but you're not entitled to the fruits of action. That sloka was going through my head a lot that afternoon. Just like, all right, now spend 2 days packing it all down for nothing. Anyway, we had the right to perform our prescribed duty. But one thing that struck me after this was that when I was going through my emails, I had all the bills, there was the cauldron, there was the veggies, there was the hiring of everything. And I had all these bills that was, due by this date, due by that date. And in my head, I'm used to, we're all used to the impersonal things that happen. There's a traffic sign, there's a bill, oh, we have to do that. But every time I would ring the people and say, I just want to pay that, some of them, all of them had a very different attitude. And some of them would say, actually, don't worry about that. I don't mind, I pick the stuff up, I'm not using it. It says on the bill there, but don't worry. And one after person had such a different attitude because of the circumstances of what had happened. And with running a restaurant, you're just always paying bills. You're always like, bills come and pay, bill, blah, blah. I'm sure everybody pays a lot of bills, but there's lots more when you run a business. So I was just used to, I kind of become conditioned to that idea. If it says by this date it has to be done. But what I realized from that experience was that actually there was a person behind all of those bills saying, we need the money because we're running our business, we need the money by this time. There was a person behind that, and when the circumstances changed, the person changed. So the bill, the impersonal bill, the thing that said you have to do that wasn't the reality. Although I was so absorbed in it that it came as a shock when I had all these bills and people saying, oh, don't worry about that one, don't worry about that one. And I just got this little insight, like we get so caught up in impersonality, we get so caught up in, this is the way things are, that's the way things are. And actually on a cosmic level, the same thing is there. I know Banu Swami was saying recently, like, we think that we commit some sinful activity, that's, we get the reaction for that. But actually it's personal. Like there'll be a demigod in charge of sight. Krishna has given this ability of sight, and there's a demigod in charge of it. And if you, offend that demigod by affecting the sight of someone else or not looking after your own sight or something, that demigod is personally offended. And the next life they may withhold it. So no, for this life I don't feel like giving you a very good sight. So actually the whole universe, even materially, is based on personality. And what I speak of when we come to spiritual life, the highest point is actually to try to serve the Lord personally. And when we take seriously this knowledge given by the Lord and the other living entities, they actually change their attitude towards us. There's one verse, and I was looking for it, I couldn't find it, maybe someone can help me, but there's a verse that says actually when people really try to surrender to Krishna and really try to follow his instructions, that not only Krishna, not only devotees, but even people in general, the whole universe, they just naturally respect that person as the river just naturally flows into the sea. It just happens. If anybody knows that verse, but it's a very beautiful verse. I think it's in Bhagavatam. But this is the idea that you everything is actually personal, and by taking this knowledge seriously given by the Lord, Srila Prabhupada, the Acharyas, all of the Lord Chaitanya, they will actually bless us. So of course this is bringing out a very, very high understanding here. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is bringing out that not just the nectar coming from the lotus mouth of the Lord in terms of philosophy, but actually this is even in the eternal state. The Lord gives nectar to his consorts. Prabhupada says, in regard to this, in this purport, by gradual development of transcendental knowledge, one can rise to the stage of the transcendental arts of music and dance displayed by the Lord in his Rasa Lila. But without having the Vedic knowledge, one can hardly understand the transcendental nature of the Lord's Rasa dance and music. So knowledge, Srila Prabhupada says, means to be able to distinguish between spirit and matter. Without knowledge, it's very easy to maintain mundane sentiment for material things. And actually, Prakashananda Saraswati accused Lord Chaitanya of being a sentimentalist. When Lord Chaitanya was in Varanasi preaching to the Mayavadi sannyasis, the head of the sannyasis, Prakashananda, said, "You're just a sentimentalist. You're just chanting and dancing, chanting this Hare Krishna mantra and dancing, that you don't study Vedanta. So this is just sentiment." But Lord Chaitanya told him, "My spiritual master said I was a fool and I should just chant the holy name." So does that mean that we should just chant the holy name? We shouldn't worry about philosophy? In the purport to that verse, Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Lila 772, Srila Prabhupada writes, "A person who always chants the holy name of the Lord, however, is already beyond the ocean of nescience. And thus even a person born in a low family who engages in chanting the holy name of the Lord is considered to be beyond the study of Vedanta philosophy." In this connection, Srimad Bhagavatam 3.33.7 states, quote, "If a person born in a family of dog-eaters takes to the chanting of the holy name of Krishna, it is to be understood that in his previous life he must have executed all kinds of austerities and penances and performed all the Vedic yajnas." Another quotation states, "A person who chants the 2 syllables Hari has already studied the 4 Vedas, Sama, Rig, Yajur and Adava." Taking advantage of these verses, so this is from Srila Prabhupada's purport, taking advantage of these verses, there are some Sahajiyas who, taking everything very cheaply, consider themselves elevated Vaishnavas, but do not care even to touch the Vedanta Sutra or Vedanta philosophy. A real Vaishnava should, however, study Vedanta philosophy, but if after studying Vedanta one does not adopt the chanting of the holy name of the Lord, he is no better than a Mayavadi. Therefore one should not be a Mayavadi, yet one should not be unaware of the subject matter of Vedanta philosophy. Indeed, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu exhibited his knowledge of Vedanta in his discourses with Prakashananda Saraswati. Thus it is to be understood that a Vaishnava should be completely conversant with Vedanta philosophy, yet he should not think that studying Vedanta is all in all, and therefore be unattached to the chanting of the holy name. A devotee must know the importance of simultaneously understanding Vedanta philosophy and chanting the holy names. So Srila Prabhupada is warning here of a deviation, potential deviation, to become like Sahajiyas and think that we're so elevated and we don't need to study philosophy of Krishna consciousness. There is a difference between the statement, chanting Hare Krishna is the only way, and the statement, the only thing you have to do is chant Hare Krishna. Those statements are not the same. So Srila Prabhupada gave us the perfect mix of chanting and developing direct attraction for Krishna, and also hearing the philosophy of Krishna consciousness, these 2 aspects. In Srila Prabhupada's morning program, and even in festivals, there wasn't only kirtan, there wasn't only philosophy, but there was both. There was a mix of both things. And if this movement has gone for thousands of years, we have to carefully look at that mood of Srila Prabhupada, that this knowledge helps us to understand actually what is our position. That both of these things have to go on side by side, as Prabhupada said. The knowledge and the chanting have to go side by side. The knowledge, it does especially 2 things. One, it helps us to understand what is our position. Just like Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says in Harinam Chintamani, that once you chant the holy name of the Lord, in japa especially he's talking about, once you chant the holy name of the Lord in the mood of I'm the servant, not the mood of I'm the enjoyer. But whether we're chanting japa or kirtan, we should be in this mood. Srila Prabhupada gave us a process to be in that mood. We shouldn't think, I enjoy chanting. We should think, I am enjoyed in the chanting. This should be our mood. Of course, in the beginning, we don't, try to worry about all these things. If somebody comes and joins in the kirtan and dances, and that's just awesome. That's the whole goal of this movement. And Lord Chaitanya didn't really talk much philosophy in public programs. he just did the chanting and some prasadam, and sometimes Prabhupada would say that too, especially one time I think in Melbourne that people were, there was a big, argument by some political motivated people, and Prabhupada said just do chanting kirtan, just do kirtan and prasadam. So in the beginning or in a very public program, but among the devotees, we're practicing for years and decades, and we're trying to really, get into it. We should be developing this mood. We should be developing this understanding that I don't enjoy doing japa or kirtan. I don't enjoy the chanting. I am enjoyed. This is the goal. I'm trying to be enjoyed by Krishna. I'm trying to chant such a way that Krishna will enjoy. I don't want to chant in such a way that I enjoy. I want to chant in such a way that Krishna enjoys. So Srila Prabhupada finishes this purport with a very profound sentence. The pure devotees of the Lord, however, can equally relish the nectar in the form of the profound philosophical discourses and in the form of kissing by the Lord in the rasa dance, as there is no mundane distinction between the two. No mundane distinction between the two on the liberated platform. So in the Ishopanishad verse 11, very nicely encapsulates this. Vidyam cha vidyam striyas tad vedo vayam saha avidyaya mrityum tirtva vidyayam ritam ashnute. Only one who can learn the process of nescience and that of transcendental knowledge side by side can transcend the influence of repeated birth and death and enjoy the full blessings of immortality. In the conditioned state, when one is still on the path, there's a big distinction between understanding knowledge and making sure you're not getting caught up in mundane ideas, karma and gyan, making sure you're not doing service because you want some profit or some adoration, making sure you're not doing service, gyan, because you want to get liberated, you just want to get free from material world. These are actually obstacles. These actually take one off the path of bhakti. So one has to have that knowledge, and at the same time one has to develop the actual attraction to the spiritual world through chanting Hare Krishna, by directly connecting Krishna. So these two things are going on side by side. But in the absolute world, once we're liberated, there's no distinction. You see the cowherd boys, they're not sitting around chanting mantras to make sure that they don't get affected by the material modes of nature and doing yagas and things like that. They're just with Krishna 100%. So until we're on that level of liberation, it's very, very important to have knowledge, to understand, and to develop that knowledge as we go on of what is matter, what is spirit, and how we can go the middle path back to Godhead. This is what Prabhupada's giving us. I'll stop there. Thank you very much. I left some time for questions. If there's any question or comment from Maharaj or any senior devotees. Any question, comment, Maharaj? Yeah. You got it, Mike?
No, maybe you can tell us a little bit about music and art, and so you're so expert.
Well, I don't know. I mean, you've asked me to talk from my perspective. So that, on this point, I think I was always attracted to music because it actually affected me. As someone who was very much pushed towards studying science and maths and things at school because I could do that and everything. Then I found when I really focused on music, it was like, wow, this something that can actually change your consciousness rather than just on this level, knowing this goes here, A squared, B squared, whatever. So I think when I taking that further, that real music is really when you do it as a service for the Lord. Really, that's when it actually becomes something special, and it's a process of purification for yourself. I think that's the whole thing. I think even I know Michael Jackson. There's so many artists that I can think of that really stand out. It's just like, wow, this person has something amazing in music, whether it's not directly within our sampradaya, but almost all of them say this is actually God's music. I'm just vibrating for God. I'm just an instrument of God. I know the guy Bono from U2. They're Christians, so the three of them, they're quite devoted Christians in their, they follow their process. But he always says that this is the real music is when you feel God, the presence of God walks in the room. There's something else. There's something completely beyond us that you feel, and of course, in bhakti we have not just that sort of, I don't want to say vague because I don't want to minimize other people's experience of God. But in the scientific bhakti, we can understand, Brahman, Paramatma, Bhagavan. We have the chance, to actually connect with Bhagavan, with Krishna himself, and how that's, and ultimately, as you say, Maharaj, it's using music to attract people and please Krishna in the Sankirtan movement. That's kind of what it is. So, I don't really accept the basis of the question that I'm expert in music. I kind of wish I was, and that, but that's my little understanding that it's the same thing, Purusha and Prakriti. It all comes down to it. We're in this material world trying to be the enjoyer, trying to be the controller, but actually we're not. We're the controlled and enjoyed by the Supreme Lord. And whether it's music or anything, if we do that in a way of I'm going to be the control enjoyer, through my music I'm going to control and enjoy and become famous and all those things. And I mean, everybody knows that. It's common knowledge, that it's not attractive to anyone, but we can take it further and really connect it. And I would also say in terms of music, like this is really the essential point. Is it being done to please Krishna or not? The style, whether the style is this or the style is that or whatever is, my personal understanding is that in the temple we should use the traditional instruments and that. I don't think we should bring all these other instruments and things in the temple. To me, we should only chant the prayers, what Prabhupada said. We shouldn't bring other things from other places that we've heard on Parikrama or something. It just should be what Prabhupada said. This is Prabhupada's home. We know what Prabhupada liked. He said so many times. And we should do that in the temple. And the temple is a sacred space where the music of of Srila Prabhupada's understanding or Prabhupada's gift of the Gaudiya Sampradaya music to please Lord Chaitanya with simple kolkatel, maybe a bit of harmonium, is really what should be there in the temple. Like I myself, I do other music as well, because I have that kind of ability. If someone's big, strong, then they'll do something strong for Krishna. Me, I spent many years learning how to play, modern music and arranging and all those things. So to me, it's just natural. So I do that for Krishna as well. But that's very much a side thing. It's not the religious process, if you know what I mean. Like Chagya Sankirtana Prayajanti Yusamedasa. So to me, when we come in the temple and do kirtan, that's a religious process. That's our religious process. And we should religiously, we should chant Prabhupada pranams before we chant, We should chant the Panchatattva mantra before we chant, as Prabhupada said, and then we chant Hare Krishna. By entering into that, we're the servant of you, Prabhupada. We don't know Krishna, but Maharaj, you're a direct disciple, but us, the grand disciple, we know our gurus, we know, Prabhupada's disciple, and we understand if we do this, they'll please, and you can tell us, oh, we don't like it. So we know Prabhupada to some degree. We know Prabhupada once, and he wrote it. So if we're doing this, we're really connected to pleasing Prabhupada, because we know, but we don't know Krishna. How can we in the conditioned states, how I'm pleasing Krishna by my chanting? We don't know. Obviously the general instruction is there. But to really go deeper, we're approaching Prabhupada, we're singing Prabhupada names, and then we're approaching Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya is the Yuga avatar, right? He gave, and Prabhupada said we should chant his pranam mantra before we do kirtan. So why wouldn't we? Why would we not? It's very bewildering to me why we would not do that. Why would we just sit down at a festival when everybody's just come and sit and we just start chanting Hare Krishna? Sorry, I'm getting into another thing, but this is, it's not about me, but it's the process of becoming that servant, of becoming the enjoyed, of doing kirtan in such a way that we're being the enjoyed, not the enjoyer, is, to me, I think Srila Prabhupada's given it. It's very important that we sit down and we offer those prayers to Prabhupada. You can do so many times Prabhupada chant Vandeham, Shri Guru, he does a big long kirtan and he goes, through all of the things. So anyway, there's some thoughts on music and stuff on it. I think in the temple is a very sacred space for following how Srila Prabhupada wanted it done. Yes, is there any other comments or questions? Yeah. Anything else? No, I have this discussion a lot with my wife, and she's from Vrindavan, and she says, yesterday itself we're talking about it. And if somebody is in Vrindavan 24/7, they're only worshipping, they're only doing all those different things, and if they just sit down and just start chanting Hare Krishna, and then maybe, that's their thing. But if we're going here and there, we're in so many different things, and then we all come down. And even if it's a 24-hour kirtan, if there's different people, what is the harm in everybody when they start sitting down and chanting Prabhupada Pranams and chanting Panchatattva mantra for 5 minutes? What's the harm? There's still 55 minutes to chant Hare Krishna. Not only for ourselves, but for the people that come, because many people come into these programs, they'll just come for that hour, they come and sit down. And they haven't been there for 24 hours, they've been there for 12 hours. And for them to focus their mind that this is Prabhupada's gift, and this is Lord Chaitanya's gift especially, because he's the one who gave the Maha Mantra, and he's the one who Prabhupada explained, if we worship Lord Chaitanya, if we approach Krishna through Lord Chaitanya, he can actually accept our service without offences, because that's what he's come. He's Krishna come directly to accept our service as a Sankirtan movement. So why wouldn't we? Why wouldn't we spend 5 minutes at the start of every hour, if we're doing a 12-hour program even, that everyone that comes down with and chant Prabhupada. I mean, when we chant japa, many people, at the start of each round, we chant the Panchatattva mantra. That's every 7-8 minutes. So, I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm making a big thing out of a small thing, but to me it's a really big thing, and I just feel that the consciousness of the congregation chanting, how Prabhupada gave that process of worshipping the Guru, worship Lord Chaitanya, and then chanting, to me it's very, very important, and I think it would have a very big long-term impact on the movement as we go forward. I'm thinking of, these things in the long run. If we get a mood where we just sit down and I feel good and you feel good and that's all good, that's really the beginning stage of chanting. But the more advanced stages, okay, understand the philosophy, who we represent, who we're worshipping, how we're becoming enjoyed, we're chanting for Krishna's pleasure, and that's, many people have advanced, and obviously way more advanced than I am, and they have that already. But for everyone in general to be taken through that process, especially to chant Pancha, to worship Lord Chaitanya in the Kirtan, I think it's very important. No comment? Yes. Oh, thank you. Krishna Rukmanaji.
I'm actually just trying to find the verse. Give me 1 second to find it. In Majavila. In Majavila, Prabhupada, in the book of Prabhupada explains, instructs exactly how we should conduct the kirtan. I mean, he didn't say his own mantra, but that's understood. He said Panchatattva mantra, then the Maha mantra, and he also mentioned Hari Hare Nama Krishna.
Yeah.
That we should chant that.
We can chant that too. Yeah. This whole sort of thing that Prabhupada is always warning us about, Sahajism, is that of taking it cheaply and putting the sentiment first. This is always a danger if we don't follow these other things.
Actually, I didn't say it's not Majavila, it's Adilila, chapter 17, verse 123 in the book. Specific instruction.
Okay, we can look that up. Thank you very much. Jai Yoga Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.